My younger sister always got her way, taking my toys, my spotlight, and eventually something far more precious. When I introduced my fiancé to our family, I thought I'd found my forever. But Lily's charm and Mark's secrets unraveled everything. What follows is my journey from heartbreak to standing my ground. Did I go too far, or was it what they deserved? I, 29F, always knew my younger sister Lily, 28F, had a knack for getting what she wanted. Growing up, she was the golden child, only a year younger, but somehow always the baby who needed extra attention. Our parents doted on her, excusing her tantrums, covering her mistakes, and letting her slide when she'd pin her messes on me. If she broke a vase, I'd get the lecture. If she forgot her chores, I was irresponsible for not reminding her. It was exhausting, but I loved her, so I let it go. Fast forward to last year. I was head over heels in love with my fiancé Mark, 31F. He was charming, kind, and everything I dreamed of. When I brought him home to meet my family, everyone adored him, especially Lily. Too much, it turns out. At first, I brushed off her flirty giggles and lingering glances as her usual attention-seeking behavior. But then things got weird. She'd show up uninvited when we were out, always finding a way to steal Mark's focus. I thought I was being paranoid, but the uneasy feeling in my gut wouldn't quit. The uneasy feeling in my gut became a constant companion after that first family dinner where Lily's behavior set off alarm bells. Mark, my fiancé, started to change in subtle but undeniable ways. He'd always been attentive, but now he was distracted, his eyes glued to his phone at odd hours. He'd laugh off my questions about who he was texting, muttering something about work group chats or a buddy from the gym. But the late-night notifications kept coming, and he'd angle his screen away from me when they did. I tried to chalk it up to wedding stress. Planning was intense, and we were juggling vendors, budgets, and guest lists. But then there was Lily. My younger sister, always the family's darling, had inserted herself into our lives with a new kind of intensity. She'd call Mark directly to check in about wedding details, offering to tag along to cake tastings or to help pick out his suit. It was odd, she'd never cared about anyone's plans but her own before. One evening, I needed to use Mark's laptop to confirm a venue booking. As I clicked through, a message popped up from Lily. Just a single heart emoji, timestamp 2:17 a.m. My heart sank. Who sends a heart emoji to their sister's fiancé in the middle of the night? I froze, staring at the screen, my mind racing. I didn't open the chat. I wasn't ready to face whatever was there. But I couldn't unsee it. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things I'd brushed off before. Lily would show up unannounced when Mark and I were having a quiet night at home, always finding an excuse to linger. She'd laugh too hard at his jokes, touch his arm a little too long. Then there was the time I found a bright pink hair tie in his car. Lily's signature color, not mine. I confronted Mark casually, holding it up with a forced smile. "Oh, must have been from when we gave her a ride," he said, too quickly. The pieces were falling into place, and the picture they formed made me sick. I didn't say anything yet. I needed proof, not just suspicions. The heart emoji on Mark's laptop was the spark that lit my suspicion. But I wasn't ready to confront anyone yet. I needed hard evidence, something undeniable, because I knew Lily's knack for spinning stories and Mark's charm could twist any accusation back on me. Growing up, Lily had always wriggled out of trouble, spilling juice on my homework and blaming me for leaving it out, or borrowing my favorite clothes and returning them ruined, with Mom and Dad shrugging it off as Lily being Lily. I wasn't going to let her charm her way out of this. So I turned into a detective, quietly observing while keeping my usual smile plastered on. I started checking Mark's phone habits more closely. He'd started putting it face down during dinner, and once when I playfully grabbed it to take a selfie, he snatched it back, laughing nervously about not wanting bad angles. Red flag. Then there was Lily's behavior. She'd text me about wedding plans, but her questions were oddly specific about Mark's schedule. Like when he'd be free to help her with something. I tested my theory by casually mentioning to her that Mark was working late one night when he was actually home. Sure enough, I saw her car cruise by our apartment that evening, slowing down before driving off. My heart pounded, but I stayed calm. The real breakthrough came when I checked our shared cloud photo album. Mark and I used it for wedding inspo. There, buried among venue pics, was a screenshot of a flirty text exchange between Mark and Lily, complete with winks and inside jokes. He must have uploaded it by mistake, thinking it was something else. The messages weren't explicit, but they were too familiar, too secretive. I downloaded the screenshot, backed it up, and started a hidden folder on my laptop. Every night I'd act normal, cooking dinner with Mark, laughing at his stories, while my mind cataloged every clue. I wasn't just hurt. I was furious, and I knew I needed more to make them face what they'd done. The screenshot in our cloud album was a gut punch, but it was also the push I needed to dig deeper. I couldn't confront Mark or Lily yet, not without something so airtight they couldn't lie their way out. Growing up, Lily had a talent for turning tears on and off like a faucet, making me the villain whenever I called her out. Mark, with his easy smile and quick excuses, wasn't much different. So I kept my cool, playing the happy fiancé while my heart broke. I started tracking patterns. Mark's late nights at the office were suspiciously frequent, and he'd come home smelling faintly of Lily's favorite jasmine perfume. I checked our shared calendar and noticed he'd added vague entries like meeting or errands that lined up with Lily's sudden spontaneous visits to our town. One day, I accidentally left my phone's voice recorder on during a family dinner at our parents' house. Lily and Mark sat next to each other, laughing a little too loudly, their knees brushing under the table. When I listened back, I caught a whispered exchange, Lily saying, "We need to be careful," and Mark replying, "She doesn't suspect anything." My blood ran cold, but I saved the file to my hidden folder. Another time, I borrowed Mark's jacket and found a coffee shop receipt for 2 lattes, dated a day he claimed to be working late. The shop was near Lily's apartment, not his office. I kept collecting screenshots of late-night calls from Lily's number in his phone logs, a selfie of them at a park he'd never mentioned visiting with me, even a cryptic note in his wallet about a special plan. Each piece felt like a knife, but I stayed calm at home, kissing Mark goodnight, texting Lily about bridesmaid dresses, all while my secret folder grew. I wasn't just building a case. I was arming myself for war. They thought they were clever, but I was one step ahead, and I wasn't going to let them slip away without facing the truth. My secret folder was bursting with evidence, screenshots, recordings, receipts, but I needed something undeniable to seal the deal. I'd spent weeks playing the oblivious fiancé, smiling through dinners with Mark and dodging Lily's overly sweet texts about wedding plans. It was torture, but I knew rushing in would let them spin their lies. Lily had always been the family's favorite, skating through life with excuses and charm, while I cleaned up her messes. Mark, with his smooth-talking ways, was no better. I wasn't going to let them gaslight me into doubting what I knew was true, so I kept digging, my heart hardening with every clue. One night, Mark left his phone unlocked while he showered. A rare slip-up. I hesitated, then opened his messages. There it was. A thread with Lily, filled with flirty banter, pet names, and plans to meet at a hotel the next weekend. They'd even laughed about keeping it from Big Sis. I felt sick but snapped photos of every message, my hands shaking. The next day, I followed a hunch and checked Lily's social media. She'd been careful, but a friend's tag story showed her and Mark at a bar, his arm around her, timestamped during one of his work trips. I saved it. Then the final blow. I logged into our shared cloud drive from a private browser and found a deleted folder Mark thought he'd erased. It had photos, intimate ones, of him and Lily in a park, a cafe, even her apartment. I restored and downloaded everything, adding it to my dossier. Each piece was a stab to my heart, but it fueled me. At home, I kept up the act, cooking Mark's favorite pasta, laughing at his dumb jokes, even planning a girls' day with Lily. They thought they were untouchable, but I had enough to ruin them. My mind was already turning to how I'd make them face the consequences, not just for me, but for every time Lily took what was mine and got away with it. This time I'd make sure they both paid. With my folder of evidence locked and loaded, screenshots, recordings, photos, receipts, I was ready to confront Lily and Mark, but I wanted to do it on my terms. I'd spent weeks swallowing my pain, pretending everything was fine while they sneaked around, thinking they were so clever. Lily, with her lifetime of getting away with everything, and Mark, with his charming deflections, weren't going to wiggle out of this one. I decided to start with Lily alone, to see if she'd crack without Mark's backup. I invited her over for a sisterly coffee date at my place, keeping my tone light and cheery. When she arrived, all smiles and fake hugs, I could barely look at her without seeing those flirty texts. I waited until we were sipping lattes, then casually slid my laptop open. "Hey Lily, what's this?" I asked, playing the park selfie of her and Mark from the cloud drive. Her face went white and she stammered, "Oh, that's just us hanging out, as friends." I pressed play on the voice recording from the family dinner, their whispers about being careful filling the room. Her eyes widened and she tried to laugh it off, saying, "You're taking this out of context, sis. We were joking." But her hands were shaking. I didn't yell. I stayed calm, which threw her off more. "Lily, I have everything. Texts, photos, even hotel plans. Want to keep lying?" She burst into tears, the classic Lily move, claiming she didn't mean for it to happen, and that Mark pursued her. She begged me not to tell our parents, swearing it was a mistake. I let her squirm, then told her to leave. That night I confronted Mark. I showed him the same evidence, watching his charming facade crumble. He tried to spin it, said Lily came onto him, and he was confused. But when I showed the hotel text, he just slumped, mumbling apologies. Their excuses were pathetic, but I wasn't done. I wanted them to feel the weight of their betrayal, and I was already planning how to make it public. After confronting Lily and Mark separately, I saw their true colors. Lily with her crocodile tears, Mark with his weak excuses. Their apologies felt like insults, and I wasn't about to let them slink away with a few "I'm sorry." Us growing up, Lily always got off easy, her charm shielding her from consequences while I took the blame for her messes. Not this time. I'd spent weeks playing the oblivious fiancé, collecting evidence like a private investigator, screenshots of their flirty texts, photos from their secret meetups, a voice recording of their whispers about being careful. My folder was a ticking time bomb, and I wanted to detonate it where it would hurt them most. I decided the confrontation needed an audience, one that would strip away their ability to lie. I planned a family dinner at our parents' house, knowing they'd both be there, smug in their belief that I was clueless. I acted normal all week, texting Lily about dress fittings and joking with Mark about honeymoon plans. Inside I was seething, but I kept my mask on. At the dinner, with our parents, aunts, and cousins around the table, I waited until dessert. Then I stood up, heart pounding, and said I had a special announcement. I connected my phone to the TV, claiming it was wedding photos. Instead, I played a slideshow, the heart emoji text from Lily at 2 a.m., the park selfie, the hotel plans, and finally the audio of their "be careful" exchange. The room went silent. Lily's fork clattered to her plate. Mark's face turned gray. My mom gasped, "What is this?" Lily tried to cry, stammering about misunderstandings, but I cut her off, calmly listing every piece of evidence. Mark tried to jump in, blaming Lily, but my dad shut him down with a look. The family's shock turned to anger, not at me, but at them. Lily ran out sobbing. Mark followed, mumbling excuses. I'd exposed them, and the fallout was just beginning. I felt a mix of relief and rage, knowing this was only the start of their consequences. The family dinner exposed left the room in chaos, with Lily fleeing in tears and Mark scrambling after her, their lies laid bare. As the TV screen faded to black, I stood there, my heart hammering, surrounded by my family's stunned faces. For a moment I felt triumphant. Finally, Lily wasn't the golden child, and Mark couldn't charm his way out. But as I drove home alone, the adrenaline crashed, and a tidal wave of emotions hit me. I pulled over, hands shaking on the steering wheel, and sobbed. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd let myself feel while gathering evidence. My sister, who I'd protected and forgiven countless times, had stabbed me in the back. Mark, the man I'd planned a future with, had thrown it away for her. The pain was raw, shock at their audacity, anger at their deceit, and a crushing sadness for the life I thought I'd have. At home I couldn't sleep. Every memory of Mark's smiles, Lily's hugs, felt tainted. I kept replaying my childhood, how I'd always been the responsible one, cleaning up Lily's messes while she basked in attention. This wasn't just about a fiancé. It was years of her taking what was mine, my toys, my spotlight, now my love. The anger grew, and with it, the seed of revenge took root. I didn't just want them exposed. I wanted them to feel the weight of their actions, to lose something they valued. My plan formed. I'd already humiliated them in front of family, but I could go further. Mark worked at a prestigious law firm. Lily thrived on her social media influencer status. I could send my evidence to his boss, her followers let their worlds crumble. The idea felt vicious but just. I spent nights wrestling with guilt. Was I becoming the villain? But the hurt pushed me forward. They'd built their happiness on my pain. I'd make sure they regretted it. By morning I was resolute. Revenge wasn't just catharsis, it was justice for every time I'd been forced to swallow my hurt to keep the peace. The days after the family dinner were a blur of raw emotion. I'd exposed Lily and Mark, watching their lies unravel in front of our parents, aunts and cousins, but the victory was hollow. Alone in my apartment, surrounded by half-planned wedding details, swatches for tablecloths, a guest list with their names, I felt the full weight of their betrayal. I'd loved Mark deeply, picturing kids, a home, a life together. Lily, despite her selfishness, was my sister. I'd always forgiven her, hoping she'd grow out of her childish ways. Now those dreams were ashes. I cycled through shock. How could they do this? To rage that burned so hot I wanted to scream, to a bone-deep sadness that left me staring at walls, unable to eat. I found a photo of us three at a barbecue last summer, all smiles, and tore it to pieces, crying until my throat hurt. But in that pain something shifted. I was done being the good sister, the one who took the high road while Lily skated free. My whole life I'd swallowed my hurt to keep the family peace, letting her steal my toys, my achievements, my dignity. Not this time. The idea of revenge, once just a spark, became a fire. I didn't want to just move on. I wanted them to feel the consequences, to lose what they valued most. Mark's career at his high-flying law firm was his pride. Lily's curated perfect life on social media was her oxygen. I could hit them where it hurt. I'd already gathered the evidence. Texts, photos, recordings. Now I imagine emailing Mark's boss with proof of his unprofessional conduct, or posting Lily's betrayal to her thousands of followers, exposing her as the fraud she was. The thought was intoxicating, but it scared me too. Was I becoming cruel? I wrestled with that question, but every time I saw Lily's heart emoji text or Mark's hotel plans, the answer was clear. They'd broken my heart, my trust, my future. Revenge wasn't just about feeling better. It was about justice, and I was ready to deliver it. The emotional storm was relentless, but it forged a steely resolve in me. I was done crying over Mark and Lily's betrayal. The family dinner had exposed them, but that was just the opening act. I wanted them to lose something real, something they couldn't charm or cry their way out of. I'd spent weeks collecting evidence, screenshots of their flirty texts, photos of their secret meetups, the damning voice recording of their be careful whispers. My hidden folder was a weapon, and I was ready to use it. I spent sleepless nights planning, weighing how to hit them hardest. Mark's law firm job was his golden ticket. He bragged about his corner office and big clients. Lily's social media presence, her carefully curated influencer persona with thousands of followers, was her entire identity. I could dismantle both, and they'd feel the kind of humiliation I'd endured. My plan was surgical. First, I compiled a professional email for Mark's boss, attaching key evidence. The texts, the hotel plans, and a photo of him and Lily at a bar during work hours. I framed it as a concern about his ethics, knowing the firm's strict code of conduct could cost him his job. For Lily, I created an anonymous account and drafted a post for her followers, including the selfie of her with Mark and a summary of her betrayal, tagged with her brand sponsors. I'd post it during her next big campaign to maximize the fallout. I kept acting normal, texting Lily about mundane things, kissing Mark goodnight, while finalizing the details. I knew the consequences would ripple. Mark could be fired, his reputation trashed. Lily's sponsorships might dry up, her followers turning on her. My family would be furious, maybe even at me for airing dirty laundry. But I didn't care. They'd shattered my world. I'd shake theirs. I felt a mix of dread and power as I prepared to send the email and post. This wasn't just revenge, it was reclaiming my dignity, and I was ready to pull the trigger. With my plan locked in, I felt a strange calm, like the quiet before a storm. The emotional roller coaster, shock, rage, grief, had hardened into determination. I wasn't the good sister anymore, swallowing pain to keep the peace. Lily and Mark had betrayed me, and my folder of evidence, texts, photos, recordings, was my arsenal. I'd already humiliated them at the family dinner, but that was just the warm-up. Now I was ready to hit them where it hurt most. Mark's career and Lily's precious online persona. I spent days perfecting my moves, ensuring every step was calculated. For Mark, I finalized the email to his law firm's managing partner, attaching the most damning evidence. Flirty texts with Lily, the hotel booking, and a bar photo timestamp during his client meeting. I kept the tone professional, citing concerns about his conduct and its impact on the firm's reputation. For Lily, I polished the anonymous post for her social media. A concise exposé with the park selfie, a snippet of their texts, and a caption calling out her betrayal of her own sister. I scheduled it to drop during her next sponsored campaign, when her followers and brands would be watching. The moment I hit send on the email to Mark's boss and posted the exposé on Lily's social media, a weight lifted, but I knew the storm was just beginning. I'd spent weeks playing the perfect fiancé and sister, hiding my pain behind smiles while my evidence folder, texts, photos, recordings grew. The family dinner had exposed their affair, but this was different. I'd targeted Mark's career and Lily's online empire, and now the consequences were crashing down. Within hours, Mark called, his voice shaking. "Why would you send that to my boss?" he shouted, admitting he'd been suspended pending an investigation. The firm's strict ethics code didn't tolerate his extracurricular behavior, especially with a client's sister. He begged me to retract it, claiming he loved me, and it was a mistake. I hung up, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. Lily's world imploded faster. Her followers turned on her, flooding her posts with comments like homewrecker and fake influencer. Two of her biggest sponsors dropped her by evening, citing brand misalignment. Her tearful Instagram live, where she tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, only fueled the fire. My phone buzzed nonstop. Angry texts from Lily, pleading voicemails from Mark, and a mix of shock and disapproval from family. My mom called crying, saying I'd torn the family apart. My dad, usually Team Lily, was quieter, admitting he was disappointed in her, but thought I'd gone too far. My cousins, though, sent supportive messages saying Lily had it coming. I knew I'd fractured family ties, maybe for good, but I didn't regret it. For the first time, I wasn't the one cleaning up Lily's mess or swallowing my hurt to keep peace. Mark's suspension could become a firing. Lily's influencer career was crumbling as her follower count plummeted. They were losing what defined them, just as I'd lost my trust and future. I felt empowered but also hollow, wondering if the cost of my revenge, family strife, my own moral compass would haunt me. Still, I stood by my choice. They'd built their happiness on my pain, and now they'd live with the wreckage. The aftermath of my revenge was like a bomb going off, and I was still navigating the debris. Exposing Mark and Lily's affair at the family dinner was just the spark. Sending the evidence to Mark's boss and posting it to Lily's social media was the explosion. Mark's suspension turned into a termination a week later. His law firm didn't mess around with ethics violations, especially after I'd included texts showing he'd lied about client meetings to sneak off with Lily. He was blacklisted in our city's tight-knit legal circle, forcing him to take a low-level paralegal job in another state. His reputation, once his pride, was in tatters. Lily's fall was even more public. Her follower count tanked by half, and her remaining sponsors pulled out after her tearful live video failed to quell the backlash. Her perfect life brand was dead. She deleted her accounts, unable to handle the hate comments calling her a sister stealer. She moved back in with our parents, jobless and humiliated, her influencer dreams crushed. My family was a mess. Mom wouldn't speak to me, blaming me for ruining Lily's life and airing family secrets. Dad was conflicted, admitting Lily's betrayal was wrong but calling my actions vindictive. My cousins and a few friends rallied behind me, saying I'd done what anyone would after such a betrayal, but the family rift stung. I'd lost my sister, my fiancé, and now parts of my family. Yet I didn't regret it. For years I'd been the good one, letting Lily take what was mine, my toys, my spotlight, my dignity, while I cleaned up her messes. This time I'd fought back, and though it cost me, it gave me something too, my self-respect. The consequences for Mark and Lily were severe, but they'd built their affair on my pain, and I'd made sure they felt the fallout. Still, I wrestled with the emptiness left behind. Revenge had been cathartic, but it didn't fill the hole in my heart. I started therapy, hoping to process the grief and anger, and began rebuilding my life, one step at a time, free from their shadows. A year after the fallout, I'm still piecing myself together, but I'm stronger for it. My revenge on Mark and Lily. Exposing their affair at the family dinner, emailing Mark's boss, and posting Lily's betrayal to her followers left them reeling. Mark's law career is a distant memory. He's stuck in a low-paying job across state lines, his reputation shredded in our city's legal world. Lily's influencer life is over. Her sponsors dropped her, her followers turned, and she's back with our parents, working a retail job she hates. Her confidence eroded. My family remains divided. Mom's calls are rare, laced with guilt trips about destroying Lily, while Dad softened slightly, admitting Lily's actions were indefensible but wishing I'd handled it privately. Some cousins and friends call me a hero for standing up. Others think I went too far. The cost was high: family ties, old dreams, but I don't regret it. For years I was the good sister, letting Lily take my toys, my spotlight, my dignity while I cleaned up her chaos. This time I fought back and it changed me. Therapy helped me navigate the wreckage. Grief for the future I lost with Mark, betrayal by the sister I loved, and the guilt of my own ruthlessness. I learned I'd spent my life dimming my light to avoid conflict. Revenge, though harsh, was my line in the sand. I moved to a new city, started fresh with a job I love, and built a circle of friends who value me. The pain still creeps in: old photos, family gatherings I skip, but it's quieter now. To anyone facing betrayal, trust your instincts when something feels off. Gather evidence, not to destroy but to protect yourself. Revenge can feel good, but it's a fire that burns you too. Use it wisely, then let it go. Set boundaries, choose yourself, and don't let anyone guilt you into silence. I lost a sister, a fiancé, and parts of my family, but I gained something priceless. A life where I'm no longer the one who bends. I'm not the villain, and I'm done apologizing for standing tall.